Today, what India needs with Shailaya Menon, author, yoga teacher, speaker, whatnot. And she is basically from Coimbatore. So now is staying southeast from Coimbatore. Maybe how many kilometers? 7,000 kilometers? Yeah. And she works for a TV media in UK, which is nearly 9,000 kilometers to the northwest. So she is covering half of globe. I am from remote sensing, so Earth is my study. So I keep relating people like that sometimes. So nice to have you on platform. Probably one who knows east to west and south to north. NEWS, that is news. So she knows the news. More than that, probably she has done a lot of interviewing people, and I just landed upon Shailaya Menon when her interview was done on Dr. Ananda, my brother, who was connected close to me with a lot of great gurus. We were connected together with his guru and my guru, his father and my guru were close. And immediately he suggested few more speakers to be added, and that's how Shailaya Menon came. It was a great blessing to have you known. We had few dialogue, but probably I have studied little bit about in and out and seen some of the interviews and talks and read the books. And just now, one of my boss happened to be a close relative of Shailaya Menon when I was in Cabinet Secretariat as Deputy Director. There are a lot of connections. The world is very small sometimes. That's what we believe. Just now I was connecting and talking to sustainable development growth on an international platform where 51 countries were joining together to speak. And I had an opportunity to say I'm ashamed of being an Indian sometime because we come somewhere in the 60 in the index. But then I said I'm proud to be part of Kerala because no other state in the world would have been put in the index. Like a small place like Kerala is put with a bracket India because Kerala stands much ahead of all the other Indian states. So Kerala stands 6th in the whole National Development Index. So sometime I was telling a small change what you can do to a small community, small people can change your index in your life. So I'm sure great experience traveling across with a route from south, traveling to northeast and southwest. I'm sure Shailaya Menon will have a lot of wisdom to share with us. Welcome. I want you to speak a little bit about your life journey all throughout, and then what are your interests and how that can be related to what India needs, probably to motivate, inspire, aspire some of the youth who may come across and get triggered by these wisdom talks. Welcome. Welcome, Shailaya.
Thank you so much, Dr. T.P. Shashkumar sir and Shiksha Hyderabad for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I would also like to thank Dr. Ananda Yogi Bhavanani for the connections and for making this happen as well. So basically my journey started, like you mentioned, I grew up in Coimbatore. And somehow the yoga, though I never grew up in a yoga-based family, the call was always there. Like even in when I was in college, I have gone and enrolled for meditation courses. Basically, my mind will stress me out a lot. And I think from young, I was always trying to find a way to deal with my own mind. And that search led me, and I instinctively knew from within me that the path was in yoga. So when I had my first child, I think he was only 6 months old, and I came back to Coimbatore. I enrolled with the Integral Yoga, which was the only I was just really near my house, and it was very convenient for me to go there with this small child and all of that. But the first asana class that I went to, it was like a light had been switched on, and I truly loved it. I fell in love with the practice, and I fell in love with the way I felt. Like I'd never felt so released from all the tension, all the stress, and the whole mind, body, breath combination truly did wonders for me. And I remember thinking at that point that I never wanted this feeling to end. And this was something I wanted to continue. And I believe I have kept that up, and I have never stopped since then. And it's just been a beautiful journey. At that point, I went in purely for my own sake, because I wanted to find answers to deal with my mind. And I wanted to be in a good place mentally. And that drew me to the practice, and that kept me with the practice, because I couldn't imagine going back to that old state where the mind was agitated and the mind was, you had no control over your mind. So I really loved where I was with my yoga practice, and I knew it was something I would always do. Then Mataji, I truly feel I have been very blessed with the gurus who came into my life. And Mataji Divyananda was from Integral Yoga, one of the first people to encourage me to become a teacher. That was not at all a part of my vocabulary as I grew up. If you had told me at that point I was going to teach yoga and speak about yoga, I would never have imagined that. But my life has been completely unplanned, and I have just followed my heart. So one thing has led to the other. I became a yoga teacher, and then when I moved to Malaysia again, I had a wonderful teacher, Manoj Kaimal, who teaches a style called Manasa Yoga. So I have been very blessed by wonderful teachers who have shaped my journey and who have expanded my mind. And the more I learn, the more blessed I feel to be in this path and have access to all of this wonderful knowledge that allows us to live in a state. Like I truly feel the great struggle people have is not with things outside of themselves, but with their own minds. And to be able to have the access and the knowledge to deal with your mind, I believe, is one of the greatest gifts. So through the yoga practice, I found a very holistic approach by, not just about giving yourself some, affirmations, which, may be very superficial, but to truly have the knowledge to work with your body, to work with your breath, and to bring about that beautiful, elevated state of mind. So I began to teach yoga, and then whatever I gained through the practice, it became very natural for me to want to share. I opened my own studio, I wrote my book, I host TV shows. So everything just happened, organically, and I just use every platform I can have access to. Whether it is the written word or whether it is through speaking and having these conversations, I try to use every access, every platform that is offered to me to share this magic of the yoga practice. Like to me, this is the greatest gift that we have. Like as Indians, this is our culture and this is our heritage and this is our knowledge. And when we have this knowledge, we don't really need anything outside of that. And we don't really need to go seeking anywhere else. We just need to immerse ourselves in the knowledge that is available to us. And that really is if you ask me, what India needs, it is really to connect to our own greatness that is there in our knowledge. And that is my message, really.
It was great to know that you started with the integral yoga, the Shivananda's tradition, and that was in Coimbatore, the Integral Yoga Institute by Sachidananda, right?
Yeah, so there was only one center at that point.
Yeah, but then I have seen him acting in one of the movie. Have you seen that movie? Don't miss that movie. Chapakwe. Chappaquua. Why I am spelling? Because my pronunciation could be wrong. It's a movie in the early 1970s, late 1960s, when Indian Swamijis went to America and then started teaching yoga. Most of the American people had this confusion of conflict between spirit and spirituality. because they were all into opium and then hippie style of life. They were all most modernized Western life, and then somebody comes and says from the East there are a lot of solutions like meditation, and that movie depicts it clearly, that confusion which the youth had. That was a beautiful movie. I think I saw it 2-3 times. It works. I loved it because even including Mayon, Kannur, art forms like Theyyam is also shown as one of the dreams for the Western youth, because they only know some pictures and they think spirituality means that vibrant dance form of Theyyam and all that. No. But in that, Swamiji is acting. It's a real integration. Now my question is, 50 years from then, 1970, if you take 2020, 50 years from now, I think India is undergoing that sort of a conflict, because they don't even understand yoga in the way those days when Westerners were not able to understand. Somebody comes and market it, something is getting marketed, they pick it up, but they are not able to consume it as their own part of requirement. So today also in India we are seeing a lot of marketing. People don't even understand what is this and why is it getting marketed. I think it's all like a fashion, people take it. Those days people took it as a fashion there. So though it is from India, it is coming back to India from different parts of the world. And we forgot that first yoga book was written by Vasishtha, and he says what you said just now, it's all in the mind. Purne manasi sampurnam jagat sarvam sudadravai upana gudapadasya nanucharma strutaiva buvu. The whole world is as you want the world to look at. So it's all in your mind. But that mind is what is really in conflicting. Really confused a lot of. Earlier in 1970s or maybe up to 2000 early, we didn't have relationship conflicts. We didn't have problems. We didn't have a lot of psychology. People, now students started learning psychology as one of the options because that's a big demand. That shows there is a lot of requirement. Everybody is in confusion, conflicts. Is it really something of concern, and where India is going? What is that yoga is providing as a solution? Is it really providing, or it's getting confused, or it will come after some time again? Do we have to wait for long?
I believe that yoga has all the answers, right? So man's mind is the same, whether it was, so many thousands of years ago or now. The confusion, what afflict the mind is really the same. And the answers, if you read I'm a big believer in the sutras. So if you go back to the sutras, everything is given there. Why are we conflicted? Right? They talk about the kleshas, they talk about avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, attractions and aversions. So when we look at that deeply, we will understand our minds better. And we will see that it is because our deep attachments, our expectations, our desire for people to react in a certain way, for people to not react in a certain way, for things to be in a certain way, we understand that it is our desire and need for all of that to happen that eventually causes us conflict. So we also realize the wisdom, because the sutras not only tell you what is the problem, but they also tell you how to deal with it. Right? So they also give you the solution, which is really about viveka, and how that is the sword with which we can cut through this ignorance. So we have all the questions and the answers right there, and it is for us to understand that and apply it to the mind. Now the thing is, the greatest thing about yoga practice, I feel, is that it is an experiential practice. Yeah. So a lot of people will tell you, okay, relax, right, let it go. But how do you do that? Right? It's very easy to say these words. Even if you look at Facebook, social media, it's full of these words, right? Inner peace, find your inner peace. But they're just words. But how do you experience these states? And to me, the yoga practice gives you that ability to experience these states, truly experience these words. Like Swami Sachidananda's very famous core statements were some of this, that your inherent nature is peace and joy, right? But why do we never access that? Why do we never feel that? But that is because of the afflictions of the mind. So the example I always tell my students is like the mind is like this ocean, and then there is like a stormy ocean, and then there are these waves that are rising all the time. And what happens is we get identified with the waves, and then we become, we label ourselves like I'm an anxious person, I'm a depressed person, I am a person who gets easily panicked, I have anger management issues. We believe we are those waves. But through our yoga practice, right, we actually connect to the aftertaste of the practice, whether it is a pranayama practice, whether it is an asana practice. We connect to those beautiful states. Maybe it is only for a few seconds, but we do connect to those states where we are not afflicted, and we can connect to our greater nature, which is free, which is boundless. And then we understand. So even when we're having these emotional meltdowns and we're having all these, feelings of being out of control, but because we have experienced these states in our asana practice or in our pranayama practice, we know that this is just a temporary situation and that is not our true nature. And the more, and it's all about degrees. So the more we lean in towards our practices, every practice leaves an impression. So I tell my students, no effort is wasted. Every single practice leaves an impression, like we call vasanas, samskaras, and all of them have an effect on us. So it's just about shifting slowly in degrees from this constant agitation, restlessness, and these, emotional whirlpools, and, shifting in degrees towards becoming more centered, more calm, more grounded. And that shift happens through our commitment to our asana practice or, pranayama practice. And I always say the more we are committed to it, it is really our responsibility, because what we put in is what we get out. So the more commitment we give our asana practice or our pranayama practice or even the other aspects of yoga, yamas, niyamas, all of that comes here, the more we get out of that practice and we make that shift. So it has the answers, but the responsibility is ours and the commitment is ours. Like even Maharishi Patanjali says, in the Yoga Sutras, he says, Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantarya Satkara Asevita Drida Bhukti. So for the practice to be firmly established in us, we have to give up, we have to express all of this. We have to show our commitment. The practice has to be continuous. It cannot be a fad, something you take up for 2 weeks. Okay, let me see how I feel. Right? We have to give that commitment to the practice. We have to practice continuously with faith, with respect. And then, the practice will respond and it will really shift our lives in ways that we never imagined. So have the faith. That's what I want to say. The practice has the answers. We just have to, give our commitment.
That's well said, true, but how many people have this faith and commitment, convictions, practice, but then, like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asked Arjuna, when Arjuna said, it's hard to control my mind, he says, yeah, you practice, it will happen. But then he says, not that easy. Even Ramana Maharshi says, yeah, pranayama is good, prana bandhanat liyate mana. But then it's like jala pakshivat dina rodanam. It's only closing in the nest. As you open, the bird flies again. It finds its own. Manas is like that. Maybe 20 minutes of meditation, good. 10 minutes of spending time in bhajans, good. The satsang is good. But the rest of your time in action is not that cool place. Your environment is such. Your people around is such. These are the problems of practical world around. Is it that is the problem? Otherwise, people would have been so happy in India. Happiness index is too bad. Life index is too bad. People are not even doing their job. They don't have faith in people around. What is it lacking?
I believe the lack of awareness of this. Like when we say 20 minutes meditation practice, 10 minutes of asana practice, it's really not like that. In the sense, these are philosophies that truly, it begins maybe with that 20 minutes of practice, but these are philosophies eventually that shape the way that we think. It shapes our every thought. Like if you take Ishvara Pranidhana, that is such a beautiful niyama that Patanjali gives in the Yoga Sutras, and it becomes the way that we experience life. So we always live out of our very rational, logical mind, and we think 2 + 2 must always be 4. But I always say that never happens. Life shows us. In fact, it takes great delight in showing us that 2 + 2 is not always 4, and then things happen that we least expect. And then if we don't have these concepts in us, if we have never heard of Ishvara Pranidhana, if we have never been aligned to all of these concepts, then we become bitter, then we fight with fate, and then we become totally, helpless, hopeless, rage and, rant at the world. But if we have these concepts, it allows us to accept life the way that it flows towards us. So to me, we have to have a knowledge of all of this. Like I say, knowledge gives us that structure, right? Otherwise, our minds are very limited. There's only that much that we know. But that is the importance of listening to people, the importance of these conversations. You listen to people who, ideas expand our minds, right? So that is what reading books, getting access to knowledge, all of that expands our mind from that limited perspective that we have to a more grander, expanded perspective. And then we realize, oh, maybe this could happen. Maybe this is another way of looking at it, right? So that's what Maharishi Patanjali gives us another big core concept of that of Pratipaksha Bhavana, right? Because we have to understand that we live and we think in very limited ways. It's all about, how it affects us. But we have to know that our perspective is everything. So there's this, they say that ultimately it is not stress that kills us. Because so many people can have that same experience of the same stress. But the way each of us deals with that stress depends on our mind. Yeah, it depends on our perspective. So the usual example that I give is, say, suppose somebody loses their job, right? For one person, it could be freedom from what was a very routine kind of a job that they were never really interested in, but they just never bothered to give it up. For some other person, it is the end of the world because they have a family to feed, they have bills to pay, and they can even, like suicides happen, people go into alcoholism, people go into depression. The event is the same, the external event is the same. But ultimately, it is our perspective that determines how we react to any external event. And that is where the yoga philosophy comes in, because it layers our limited mind with so many expanded concepts, right, of Ishvara Pranidhana, of Pratipaksha Bhavana, which is to not just, though Pratipaksha Bhavana is think about the opposite, perspective, it may not be easily possible to think of the opposite thing, but we can at least expand on what the situation is. We can look at it in another way, we can look at it sideways, we can elevate our thinking, look at it from the top, and then the situation is not that limited perspective that we saw, it's the end of the world. So to me, ultimately our life is the way we view it. And how we view it, our perspective is determined by our philosophy. And that is where the yoga practice comes in. It gives us a beautiful philosophy through which the lens of our perspective is, colored. And that is a philosophy of faith. That is a philosophy of surrender. That is a philosophy of tapas and Ishvara Pranidhana and swadhyaya, which is, constant study. So that's why I say yoga practice is not that 20 minutes that we sit or that 1 hour that we practice. Swadhyaya is a continuous practice. From the minute we wake up in the morning, are we being, like we talk about antakarnas, right? Manas, buddhi and ahankara. So from the minute we wake up, we have to see what is, shaping our karma, what is shaping our action. Are we led by the manas or are we led by the buddhi? And that begins from whether we are going to switch the alarm clock and wake up, or are we going to switch it off and go back to sleep. So from there, the yoga practice starts. It is a moment-to-moment, decision making, based on which we make our choices. So it is a whole day practice. It is a 24-hour waking hour practice, and it is not limited to that 20 minutes that we, sit down to close our eyes and try to focus on something. So that is what I want to share, that the philosophy of yoga is really very beautiful, and it layers our very limited perspective with beautiful concepts that truly expand our thinking and our perspective, so we can be in acceptance of whatever life flows towards us, not just what we like and what we think the situation should be, It really allows us to have a more expanded perspective, and ultimately all of that results in less suffering. Yeah. So that is what we're all trying to get a release from.
Wonderfully posted that different aspects of yoga practices. My Guru Swami Vedabharati keeps saying, meditation is not what you close your eyes and do it, it's meditation in action. So every job what you do. But you are able to speak like this because you are part of that tradition. You understood what is traditionally required. You know the philosophy, you know the science, you know the art, you know the self-actualization comes not by closing your eyes and then shutting you away from the environment around you, but being in nature, in harmony with what is around you. But unfortunately, 3 months of yoga practice and a certificate program, somebody can write Yogacharya and then start teaching. That is what is commercialization is leading to. When you popularize something too much, and you are not able to provide that good number of teachers around who has got the theoretical, philosophical, darshana style of knowledge around them, they start telling only the third step asana, forgetting about yama niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, forget about reaching up to samadhi. That doesn't happen to most of them. I remember when 15 years back when I was running a program, when I was director for academic staff college, people wanted sports teachers from the universities wanted a yoga special refresher course. I asked a few people who came to me, 8 steps they never learned it. They know only asana. They want asanas to be taught. And that is what we are seeing. We are seeing sports yoga, we are seeing laughter yoga, we are seeing beer yoga, we are seeing hot yoga, whatnot. Therefore, the same word used diluted most of the items, and sometimes it is marketed too bad. When there are no sufficient great masters available to teach around, is it not misleading? That's why I said in 1970s what happened. Is it not more confusing unless we know what the good milk can be provided? Everybody thinks everything white is milk. We are not able to show them the pure milk. We are not able to supply that sufficiently. But we said milk is good, so everybody started selling white water. How do we take care of this? Is it that is creating problem so that people lose the faith? The other day people were telling many names. I don't want to name somebody. Somebody have got 1,000 people on the ground and then charge them and they sell. Somebody says pranayama is only one nose breathing, the second nose breathing, and they market. It's all like a chain market business. And they are the most famous people in India who are minting money. Integral yoga is gone. Himalayan tradition is gone. Nobody even knows that, because the other one is marketed more. So how do you get rid of this confusion, and what we can do to, that is what India needs, the pureness. It has happened in education, it has happened in most of the products we have. We don't even distinguish what is the original food and GM food, because everything is mixed and sold it here. The food is adulterated. It's not to blame India, because that is the confusion which I am seeing. How do you get rid of that confusion?
I mean, the way I see it, there's always going to be this, right? In every field that you take, even if you take doctors, right? There will always be good doctors. There will always be doctors who are commercial. Like my own father, he was somebody who completely dedicated his whole life only to patients. Like, it's from morning to night, without breakfast, without lunch, his patients came first. And that was a kind of dedication that is so, you cannot even see it these days. So there's always going to be, in every field, there will be people who are 100% dedicated, and there will be people who will commercialize and who will, try to take advantage of it. And I think it is also true that there will be fewer people who are completely dedicated and more number. I think this is just life in every field. But I think the like even when I live in Malaysia, right here, it's very, very focused on asana practice, right? And it's not even asana, it's just like an exercise, because a lot of the teachers who teach have really like I said, I was very blessed that I had wonderful teachers who taught with philosophy. But that's not the case with everybody. And a lot of people just teach it only in terms of anatomy, or only in terms of, okay, you have a back pain, then you do this, or, you have a pain in your shoulder, then you strengthen your shoulder doing this, or you want a strong core, you do this. But I always tell, that it does do all this. You do get a strong core, you do get a strong back, you do strengthen and tone your muscles, but that is just the beginning, and that is not where it ends. And there is so much more to the yoga practice. That is just the start. And it is only our ignorance that we limit the yoga practice to that. So I think the responsibility, I don't think we can go out and change everything that is bad in the world. But I believe as teachers, we have a responsibility to share like I think many things happen. Like I actually started this podcast on Facebook where, Dr. Ananda Balyogi Bhavnani, he is one of the people who support the podcast a lot, and he generously gives his time to talk to me. And I also talked to Dr. Kaustubh Deskajal. So they have been sharing so much of genuine, authentic teachings, during this whole time. And then Dr. Ananda Balyogi Bhavnani, again, he himself does so much of sharing on Facebook, whether it is his scintillating Saturday or whether it is the, Vishwa Yoga Prarthana that happens every day. So I think these are the ways that people can share. Like, we can't go out and change the people who are not doing this. But if you have the knowledge and if you have the heart, I just think it becomes our responsibility in our own capacity, whatever we can share, to do it. Like I started the podcast where I'm not talking, but I invite, these great teachers to talk. And then, Dr. Ananda talks himself. So I think it's just up to everybody. You are doing this great service now, and you are inviting all of us here to share, what knowledge that we have. So I think it is just our responsibility to share the light as much as we can, because we can't go out there and change everybody the way they teach or the way they don't teach. But we can do what we can do to share our light and the light of yoga, which has, which is really what shines through all of us. I mean, if there's anything good in me today, it's truly the yoga practice. Nothing else. It's completely shaped my life and my thinking. So I believe that is my responsibility. So I write books and I have these podcasts. And, when I teach, I do the, asana show on television, but I try to bring in philosophy there. I am very happy to talk to, these platforms and share whatever little I know. So I think it's just that we just have to keep sharing, and we have to use these platforms to create a wider audience.
That is what I did. Probably I shared what is the philosophy that you are carrying. What is that message you want to carry to the next? That's all what I did. So I think now we will open up this forum for others to ask questions. Now maybe we took half an hour or more than that to introduce what is the philosophy of yoga, or what is the message what Shailaya Menon wanted to spread across. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions, because there are a lot of people who continuously attend here, or good readers who understand many different aspects. Now the forum is open. Namaskaram, Doctor, my brother. No, Doctor, my brother. Thank you for joining. Yeah. Vanakkam. So we have the blessings of Dr. Ananda here. Neeru is also here. Yesterday we had a hitch. People had a problem in joining because of technical issues. Neeru is here. And we have Shailajama here. I'm sure, yeah. Anybody could ask questions. You should come forward. Welcome. Ravi ji, you could, Professor Ravi, you are posting on the chat box. You could also unmute and ask him. Make it brief question,
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Nice, Shailaya Madam ji. Really related with your talk. My basic question is simple. Into day-to-day life, People are feeling the asana itself is a yoga, nothing more than asana. Under these circumstances, how will we generate enthusiasm to have a yama niyama in day-to-day life? How will elevate importance of yama niyama? People are totally neglected. That's why we are seeing everything is commercialized. Please highlight about this one, madam. Thanks a lot.
So I really feel it is in the way that it's conveyed, right? Because I think most teachers don't talk about all this itself. And we need it to be conveyed in a manner in which it is easily understandable. So I'm really sorry, Dr. Ananda. I'm very deeply grateful to him. He's here right now. I thanked him in the beginning. At that point, he was not there, but he actually talks in a very easily understandable manner, right? In a way that it can be digested by people. So I believe we need more people to explain it in a way that it is relatable to everyday life. Otherwise, a lot of philosophy, people just think it's not for me. But they don't understand how it can relate to you and how it can benefit our life. Like, we are all people who will only do something if it benefits us, right? So if we can understand the relevance of this and, in the way that it actually uplifts our life, then we have a little bit more interest, right? So when we think about ahimsa, say, ahimsa is one of the first yamas. Now, people only say, okay, I'm vegetarian, so okay, I follow ahimsa, that's about it. But if we expand on ahimsa, we can understand first when we apply it to our own selves, like how much of himsa is there in our own thoughts, right? Every day we actually create violence on ourselves with all the thoughts that we think, that we feel we're not good enough, we feel that, we compare ourselves to other people, we feel so small, right? Every day we look in the mirror, we tell ourselves that we're too fat, we're too short, we're too thin, we stand on the weighing scale and then we get completely depressed, we say we're never going to lose it. These are all everyday things that we're doing. And we don't understand that this is all under that himsa. So to understand that broader context of this one yama, then we really start to look at our inner narrative and our mental chatter. I always say the most important conversation we have in our life is what goes on in our own heads. But we are oblivious to it because we are so identified with the mind. We think we are the mind. But we don't understand that the mind, like how we go to the gym and strengthen, our muscles and, strengthen our body, change the shape of our body. Similarly, we have the capacity through these practices to shift our state of mind as well. And I always say we're not doomed by our minds, right? So if we shine the light on our minds and we can see the dysfunctions of our mind, I say dysfunctions because there's a lot of dysfunction. And then we can actually apply all these beautiful principles that, yoga offers us, all the yamas and niyamas. Like Dr. Ananda's favorite thing is really the yamas are all about, otherwise we're always reacting from, the survival instinct, right? So why do we want to, attack people? Why do we want to steal from people? Why do we tell untruths? It's all out of that survival instinct. So just because we're born human, it doesn't necessarily mean that we act like human beings. Right? So it is recognizing that first. And in order to recognize that, we have to have that capacity to look at our thoughts and look at our emotions. And then the relevance of all this becomes unmistakable. We realize that it is this that helps. And as long as we live out of that survival instinct, as long as we're always competing with other people, as long as we're always comparing ourselves, there can never be happiness. So if we are committed to lifting our state of mind, like I said, the question we have to ask ourselves is how committed are we to ourselves? I always tell my students, don't come to class for me, right? You come to class for yourself. Your yoga practice is your commitment to your own self to lift yourself. Yeah, like Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So the Ret Atmana, we have to lift ourselves by ourselves. Only we can do that. And we can only do that by shining the light on our minds, seeing our thoughts, seeing our emotions, seeing the dysfunctions of the way that we think. And then when we think about all these concepts, we apply these concepts, then, like Swadhyaya to me is such a wonderful practice. because without constantly we have to look at ourselves, and that comes under that swadhyaya self-study. Right? We have to see how we act. We have to see how we react. We have to see the motivation behind why we said something. We have to see what is it that caused it. Is that survival instinct, or is it, a more elevated, principle that we have? So that Swadhyaya principle is, and then without tapas, we can never change it. We can have all these wonderful intentions, right? You want to do this, you want to do this, but unless we apply the tapas, nothing is going to change. So even if we see these dysfunctions of the mind, we see the way, we act out of patterns. And a lot of our patterns only drag us down. But we're just simply acting out of them because our samskaras are so strong. So tapas is that ability to stand up to those samskaras. We need that hard effort of tapas to go against that, that pattern of the subconscious mind, and to be able to say, no, that's not how I'm going to, react this way. So, these principles are invaluable if we want to lift ourselves. And then Ishvara Parinana, like Dr. I'm sorry I'm quoting Dr. Ananda and everything, but I did Patanjali Sutras course with him. So the practice of Ishvara Parinana actually puts us on that trajectory to the divine. So we have to ask ourselves, right, what is our life about? And we have to, accordingly see whether these yamas and niyamas, play a role in our lives. And if anybody seriously wants to, then these yamas and niyamas, we can't do without them.
What beautifully that concept of Shankara, Manam Darpana Samanam, is explained. But most of the people don't understand this. What you are seeking and the seeker and the master, what you are seeing and the seer and the object what you are seeing, that distinction is what is lacking. The whole question is that how do we take this to much, that is what Professor Ravi, he was retired from a engineering college, he has dealt with a lot of people around youngsters, and that's the pulse which people carry today. So he was representing not anybody else other than the youth of India, probably. That's a confusion all of us have. Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, Aravind.
Sir, thank you again for giving opportunity, and I agree with Ma'am Shailaya Menon, everything. And my question is there is a elevated platform we can take, and we can take that motivation, and then we can take the first step. Thousands of steps begin with the first step. How to keep that consistency, continuous practice, and then have that expansion.
To me, it is the benefit of the practice. Like when I did my first yoga class and I felt the benefit of the practice, I felt that release, like mind, body, breath, energy, all of this is deeply connected. And when you work with one, you work with all. And when you can feel that beautiful state at the end of the class, and you feel your mind settled, you're getting a respite from that constant agitation of the mind, right? And you can sense, everybody talks about this greater self, but you can actually get a glimpse of that truth at the end of the practice, where your mind is settled, your mind is spacious, feel that boundlessness that people talk about. So when you get that and you feel so good, right, then you want that. You want to feel good, right? And to me, I always tell my students, taste it, right? Feel it. And then that will bring you back to the mat. Because as long as it's just words, you just get bored. But when you can experience it, and that's what I always say, yoga, the greatness of yoga is an experiential practice. You can taste inner peace. You can taste your joy. You can taste all of that. And that taste is what will keep bringing you back. Because I believe as human beings, we are always trying to evolve, right? We always want to have a better way to be. And we always subconsciously, even if we tell ourselves that, we don't care about evolving, we are always trying to find, right? That's why we're attracted towards, good books, we're attracted towards good speakers. We're always, that is an inherent desire in human beings to evolve. And I always say, right, the yoga practice helps you to become the best that you can be, to express your highest potential. As human beings, that should be, what more grand, vision can you have for yourself than to be the best in every way that is possible? It's not about being like somebody else. but it is just being your best, whether it is with your physical fitness, whether it is with your diet, which is with your state of mind, which is with your relationships. I mean, you have to have that vision, and that vision draws you to your practice every single day.
Again, the question was wonderful. Your answer is also wonderful. But I think that is where my basic question. I thought that this is milk and started tasting. But the person who gave me milk knows only that it is black like a turmeric. Because the teachers are like that, they don't even distinguish, they don't understand black, they don't understand turmeric, they don't understand milk color also. And they are saying this is milk you drink. So yoga is being so much diluted, polluted, filtered. That is why when you say taste, luckily Shailajamma got a taste of integral yoga. You landed up in Ananda, you landed up in the best teachers. But see, what happens is the water is asked to drink when I am thirsty, but what water is being provided is full of poison. It's creating problems than solutions. As medicine, what is given is what is creating me more trouble in my body. Who is supposed to filter it? Now we have got the president of Yoga Association sitting beside us. I keep on asking this to most of the people. Government is not, no, I think for a film there is a censor board. And for doctors there is an association. But we have got lot of marketing people who don't. I remember, this is also for Dr. Ananda, when Swami Vedabharati wanted to have a EEG electroencephalograph, I was suggesting put all the great Swamijis who wanted to teach meditation to put them under EEG and test. The vibrations will be, it's like a pujari looking, not in the deity and chanting mantra, but mantra goes outward, but internally he is thinking how much money he can earn. He may be chanting something, correct? He may be chanting Purnamada Purnamidam, but his mind is not how much money I will earn today evening. Ananda is very good in chanting in English. I think you should use this to chant. I keep saying sometime, Ekachame, 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 Trishashchame, Trishashchame, Panchachame, Panchachame, Saptachame, Saptachame, Namachame, Namachame, Ekachame. This is the chanting outward, but internally he is thinking, today how many people are there in the queue? If I don't get 40 rupees more, my electricity bill is 240, I could only collect 200 rupees so far. Now 40 rupees, if I don't go with that 40 rupees, my wife will start scolding me. This is what is going internally in him. So when you have prarabdha karma, and you are not a bachelor, brahmachari by action, only by name you have got a brahmacharyam. The charam is not in the Brahma, it is there in his prarabdha. That is the real world. That is why the taste is not good. I tasted an orange, but it was so soaring. So any orange who looks at me, I say it's not tastier at all. Orange taste is so bad, no? I only tasted Indian noodles because no Chinese fellow made me noodles and gave. Only when I say noodles, I know only top ramen and then 2 minutes. I have never tasted Chinese noodles. That's the original noodle. Do we get original noodles here? No, we don't get, because we don't know how to make it. And as far as I am, when the real Chinese noodle comes, I will say, hey, this is not the noodles taste. You ask a Chinese fellow to make uttapam, how he will make? That is how we are making noodles in India, because that's not our food. So the tradition, that heritage in which you are blessed. I was blessed to be with such masters. Philosophy from somewhere, asana from somewhere, meditation from somewhere, all great masters. But how many have this taste? You asking to taste, but where do I taste? Who knows? Who will give me a certificate? This is the best. Everybody is yoga acharya. Yeah, anybody else? Anybody else?
Asha.
Yeah.
Uh, Good evening, ma'am. It has been a really good discussion. So straight away to the question. First question is how to identify a proper guru in case of yoga, because I have had a very short stint with yoga. So I have gone to almost three teachers, but they teach in very different manner in case of asanas also. Because if you do Surya Namaskar in one person's way, that will be completely different from the next person. Also, second, I have two questions. Second question is, if we have some hobbies like people used to dance or sing, that is also meditative in nature, right? That is being with themselves, right? At that point of time. So, how is that different from these sort of set patterns for doing asanas or the traditional yoga?
I think the essence of yoga practice is the same, like though there are many, ways that different styles have emerged over the years, different teachers have, come up. Like I myself have gone to, like I started off with integral yoga, then for a while I've been to Shivananda Ashram and, I've seen. So the sequence, like maybe integral yoga will start with triangle and end with headstand. Shivananda will start with headstand and triangle. So I feel the essence is the same. They might just change the postures, how you start, how you end. But as long as the teacher is, guiding you towards your own self, right? You have to know the basics of yoga practice is that the practice is really about connecting to your own self. And now if you think about self, we don't know. But we begin, like a lot of teachers also say that it is with the known that you connect to the unknown. So what is it that you know? You have your body, you have your breath, you have your mind. Right, you have energy. So as long as the teacher is guiding you towards your own self and guiding you to, with all of these other practices in, right? So it should never be about pushing you beyond a certain point. So even some people tell me the teacher pushes you, you get injured, right? So ahimsa comes. So I always, yamas and niyamas actually are practiced right on the mat first. To me, mat practice is life practice. Because the mind that we take into our mat is not different from the mind in our everyday life. The mind is the same. So if we find ourselves pushing ourselves and, competing with somebody else, we know that is our mind. So that is why that ability to be a witness, that Sakshi Bhava, is so important. Where, like I say, we see the dysfunctions of the mind. And we are able to, see whether are we applying the yamas or not, are we applying. So you need to just, I think the way your teacher teaches, whether all of this philosophy is there, all of that should be an indicator. And also you get a sense about whether you are leaving the class more agitated than you came in because your teacher is making you feel worthy and your teacher is making you feel not good enough. Or your teacher connects you to all the yamas. To me, like I said, the yamas and niyamas are everything. Right? There's this beautiful concept of santosha, which is contentment, right? So even in your asana practice, if you're constantly thinking about how the other person is better than you and how you're so terrible, you're going to end class feeling worse than when you came in, right? So unless your teacher, like I said, it has to be layered. A stretch has to be layered by the yamas and niyamas. Then only it becomes asana, right? Otherwise, it's just a stretch. It's an exercise. Like what differentiates exercise and an asana? They look the same, right? You can hold triangle, they look the same. The shape is the same. But shift is from the shape to the state of mind. And that shift happens by layering all of these principles in.
Okay.
So that is what you should see, right? Like how are you feeling at the end of the class? You feel better. Like to me, like I said, when I went to my first integral yoga class, I just felt blissed out, right? So all of this, a lot of it is your own inner self also, right? Is your teacher teaching you with philosophy? Is your teacher teaching you like an exercise, right? Are the different limbs of the yoga coming in? Is breathing being, accompanied with your movement? So, one general idea we have about yoga, and we have to see whether how all that is coming.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then what this
second,
like when you talked about the dance, music,
dance,
all of that. Yeah, I feel all of that is very immersive. Yeah, so we actually get instantly absorbed into it. But I think what distinguishes yoga practice and asana practice are these elements, the yamas and niyamas, right? That swadhyaya principle. all of that comes in. Yeah, and that is what makes that different. Whereas, I mean, I'm sure Dr. Anna may have something different to say, but from my limited understanding, music and dance is great because we get instantly absorbed. And maybe in that absorption, we get purified as well. Yeah, so I believe that it is a constantly happening process. Yeah, we're not consciously thinking about it, but in that absorption, that purification happens. Yeah, whereas yoga practice is a more conscious, it's a very conscious process, right? Makes us more conscious of ourselves, makes us more conscious of our actions, our thoughts, our intentions, our motivations. What are we acting out of our samskaras, our vasanas? It's different. Like, to me, that's it. Right?
Yeah, in case, I just want to add one more thing, that even in case of acting is also one of the highly meditative process, because you are in complete present with yourself, right?
Yeah, but like I said, that is at that point, right? So are we having those other aspects in it, right? Does Swadhyaya come in, right? Like I said, Swadhyaya and all is a whole day practice. From when we wake up in the morning, we have to see this interplay of manas, buddhi and ahamkara, right? We have to see if we are acting in a certain way, what is the motivation for that action? Is it an ego-based action? Like, even a simple thing, like the easiest way for me to explain is in asana class, right? We think we have to touch our toes, say Uttanasana, and that becomes about the ego. I have to touch my toes. But really, it doesn't matter, because it's really about the process of the asana. So we have to see our action is motivated by what. So like that, from when we wake up, from whether we switch the alarm and get up, boy, food is a great thing, right? So we see food. Right, the manas is always motivated by likes and dislikes, yeah, raga and dvesha. So are we giving into that, and are we just eating whatever is, we like to eat, or is the, discernment coming in, is the intellect coming in, and are we able to guide the mind to eat something which is slightly more healthier? So it is a constant process, right? So I don't know, to me, acting, maybe the absorption happens then, but I'm not sure how much the rest of it plays in, that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
See, so beautifully said, your dhyana and samadhi is internalized process. So you cannot have group meditation, you cannot have group dhyana also. It is your internal. But probably what can be taken is only up to dharana. So I keep saying you should not have meditation centers, you should have only dharanalaya, and stop there and leave them to themselves. When somebody, Mukta from America, wanted to start a meditation center, I said, no meditation center. She wanted me to inaugurate. I will not come there. Only if you put Dharanalayam, I will be part of it, I said. Because I propagate, Dhyanam is individualistic. Dhyanam, you cannot have myself and my wife together Dhyanam. Not possible. How do I go into me with somebody else? They can go into them, I can go into me. But we are selling again that group meditation. Lakhs of people participated. Meditation is fine. English word is fine. But when you say samadhi, 1,000 people together, I cannot have samadhi with my wife or children. If I can have samadhi with me, that is what is Shailajama is coming to know. You should experience yourself. Uddhared atmanatmanam atmavanam avasadayet. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. What a great message is that. That is what Bhagavad Gita, and the core of Bhagavad Gita is only that what Shailajama only chanted one beginning. So I said that is the core. Your enemy is inside you, your friend is inside you. That realization comes. That is self-actualization. That is actually samadhi. The seer, seeker and the seen, not different. It is one and the same. Great, great Amma. You said it. Anybody else? Yeah.
So I have a question. Vipin. There are two things. Actually, do you think that this is what India requires as of now? Because we've been ruled by Britishers, before that Mughals and things like that. They have changed our attitude. They have changed our way of living, and they have changed our thought process. There is fear in our life. There is hesitations. We are not outspoken, or we are not going out and be open in the market. At this situation, do you think is this going to help, or we have to do something which will boost their internal potential? So that is one of my questions.
To me, yoga is really the answer to everything. Right? I feel what is lacking is that, like you see, even I grew up in India, but unfortunately, I only had a taste of it much later in my life. But I feel these are things that children should be exposed to. I mean, it's science, right? Nobody teaches us the most important thing, which is to manage our own minds, right? Mind, body, breath, energy. These are the most important things. Nobody even tells us that they're connected. Unless you come in these kind of practices, then you realize your breath and your mind is connected, that by working with your breath, you can stabilize your mind, right? Otherwise, nobody knows. And now through science, they are proving the same thing because they say 90 or 95%, that the percentage, I'm not quite sure, is the diseases that we have in our body comes from the mind, right? It comes from the stress. Whereas the stress is in the mind. So now this established through science also that mind and body are related, deeply related. Right? And I've even heard some neuroscientists say that it's not even mind and body, that mind is in the body. The whole of the body is actually, they have these receptors which feel, right? And then if we think about it a little bit deeply, that's very true also, right? When we have fear, we can feel it in our abdomen or our chest, right? And then when we have a shock, the whole body freezes, right? So we understand that mind is not limited to the brain like we think it is. And this knowledge is so important. So sometimes when we have intense stress or intense trauma, we can't tell our mind, oh, mind, just relax, just let it go, like these very inane kind of statements. Nothing happens, nothing shifts. But through the yoga practice, you have that knowledge and you have that ability to work your body through asana practice, through bringing your mind into that by being absorbed in your asana practice, by bringing the breath into it. And nothing, I mean, there are, much deeper practices as well. But, at the beginning level, you have all this, you have the knowledge. And through that, you can actually elicit a shift in the state of your mind by the end of the practice. And this is the only way I know that releases all the trauma at a deep level. So to me, this knowledge is like, we have to be taught this at school level. We have to grow up with this knowledge. This is our treasure. People come from all over the world to seek it, yet people grow up in India having no awareness of it. So we need to learn this this is not out of religion, even in terms of just managing our own minds. Right? They say the next big, pandemic is really mental illness, right? How many people suffer? Never mind samadhi. I always tell my students, forget samadhi. First, we learn to wake up and be happy. Right? We just have to learn to manage our minds, not wake up feeling completely depressed, anxious. I have students with panic attacks. All of this is very real. So we need to learn to settle our minds first before we can even think about all of that. All of that sounds good. But I always say, let's start with just waking up feeling good. Even that is a struggle for so many people. Learn how to manage our anxiety. When we feel stressed out, we know what to do because we know the yoga practice. We know that we can work with our breath. We know we can deeply stretch and release our bodies. So to me, this practice, there's no question about it that we need to take it down to the grassroots levels, and we need for people and our children to grow up with this knowledge.
So would you suggest that? Sorry, sir.
Continue.
So suggest that we have to bring yoga practice to the schools, and then it should be made part of curriculum, and it should be started from the young age, so that their mind is.
Absolutely. Like I feel I was very blessed that I was directed to this path. But how many people struggle with panic attacks, struggle with anxiety, struggle with, just feeling low, just not feeling enthusiastic about life. Thousands, millions of people struggle with this. And to me, the yoga practice has the answers to all of this. But we need access to that.
I think again it's Good that it has to come to education. I don't know whether Shailaja Ma or Dr. Ananda has seen the NCERT book on yoga for 9th, 10th class.
No, I
So,
haven't.
so pathetic. Just Google, I will send you PDF if you don't have. That's only reason what I said, what we are selling in as medicine is only white water. We have not even, it is all done academically so rubbish. That is where we lost. See, what is the connection what just now Shailaja made? The Hatha Yoga Pradipika clearly says Sharira Manaso Yoga Paraspara Manuvrajit. Sharira Manaso Yoga Paraspara Manuvrajit Adhara Adheya Bhavena Taptajya Khadayoriva. It's so related and connected. I don't think any teacher who teaches this NCERT book understood this so far. I don't think they understood. It's all there, Yama, Niyama and all that. But they also quote great Swamijis who prefix itself is SAD. I don't know how do you read that. They are all being referred there. And they are not satisfied with one Sri, they add 3 Sris there. They are all the masters, advisors for that book. I think when we are not out of the clutches of the certification programs and we are looking for knowledge, I'm sure there will be a lot of change. So education is good, but if you don't teach, this is what will happen. Yesterday, day before yesterday, we had a guest who was talking about referring somebody, I don't even name. Immediately I took and gave hundreds of references which is actually bad on India. Somewhere he mentioned it's a beautiful country, but the next paragraph says it's a beautiful country where we can propagate our Christianity. So, but you are reading only the first line and says it's a beautiful country. He told like that. But next sentence also you should read, right? See, many people keep saying Annadanam Param Danam. The best dana is Annadanam. But next line you don't read. Vidyadana Madat Paramane Nachanika Triptihi Yavat Jivanja Vidya. See, when you have half knowledge, it is much more dangerous. Then no, it is better not to learn anything in schools if it is being taught like this. I think Dr. Ananda has to file a case against. I remember when somebody wrote in CBSE textbook, Hindi is the national language. That time there was one Dr. Chowdhury here and myself. Both of us had got a big seminar, and one of the Calicut University professor filed a case against it, saying that no, the book says like this, that is to be immediately removed. It is not the national language, it is a national language. Every language identified more than 23 languages as national languages. But somebody writes, and that becomes, that is where our problem. Grantham moonu pagarthidil muhurtam mutramayidum. You copy and do it. That is where same beard, same TTC, same teachers will teach. And those who don't have any other job, they will teach yoga. You don't have teachers, put as a substitute class. Because it's not important, no. See, it's the objective and scope which defines. And what is the conclusion? It is not marks. It is that taste which you said. If you are not giving the taste, again, like bad orange. I think we need a cleaning up. Otherwise, half knowledge danger. That's what I am saying. How do we do this? That is the biggest challenge, which not mine. It's Dr. Ananda who joined, unfortunately. That is his, I am putting on his head. Let him become as grey as I am. Little more. Yeah, you could remove hair also. Or maybe shave like this so that you look a panda look. Pandit is pandas.
Yeah. I was just thinking, TPS Anna, you have brought out one of my very pet topics, because we have been working with children from 50 years, and children will come to our classes without any hesitation, and they won't go on family holiday. Instead of going on family holiday, they'll stay back to be in our classes. And we create that type of interest and enthusiasm. Now, many of the children, when we used to talk to them, I remember in those days, yoga was part of the central schools. All the KB schools had yoga in those days. And when we used to talk about yoga, the kids used to start laughing that is a comedy circus class, and they used to joke about the way the teacher was teaching and what was taught in the class. So they got an antipathy towards yoga because it was put in a forced situation. And as you said, Hindi as one of the national language as opposed to the national language, the same thing here is people will happily learn yoga and enjoy it, especially children. But the moment you put it in the syllabus and you say you have to do it 45 minutes every day, and you have a bad teacher teaching it, they will revolt against yoga. So as a school child in Kodaikanal, I had that issue. We had a very bad yoga teacher in school. And I used to go to the principal and complain, what he is teaching is wrong. But I was in 8th standard. Now that teacher has a certificate from a reputed guru. So my principal said, if you want, you don't have to go to the class, but don't make an issue of it. It was said I was instigating other students against yoga. Imagine. I was not instigating against yoga. I was instigating against a bad teacher teaching yoga in a manner that would put kids off yoga for whole of life. So the teacher is very important. And I was thinking, we had a question from Asha about music, dance as meditation. They are definitely a meditation. But then what happens? You come out of that state. And the concept of dhyana in yoga is a 24-hour state. So it is not only when you are sitting for dhyanam, but it is your whole life becomes a dhyana purvaka. It becomes filled with dhyanam. That dhyanam becomes your natural sahaja state of being rather than something you do. My father used to say meditation is a noun, not a verb. It is a noun, it is a state of being, not something you do. But today we are stuck on this concept of doing meditation. And as DrTPS Anna said, you can only do concentration. Up to dharana you can do. After that it is no more doing, it is being. And that is where the Ishvara Pranidhana comes in. Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana. So I just wanted to share, this is Shailaja's talk, so I was keeping quiet because I enjoy listening to her. She has to listen to me once in every 6 weeks, keep on talking. But I enjoyed listening to her. But when we teach the Yama Niyama to children, we make it a song. So as Asha was saying, what about song? You bring it into song. So the concept, it is in Tamil because I work with the local kids, so I use Tamil as the link language and I think in Tamil. But when we talk about the Yama, I use the concept that when you follow the Yama, you don't have to have fear anymore. So the term here is Achamillai, which is Mahakavi Bharatiya's line which I borrowed. So how it goes is, one second. Seiya maten, himsayai seiya maten, solla maten, poi solla maten. So we are giving them the concept, what you are not doing, because the yama is not to do something, that not do. The niyama is do. Here it is not do. So, seiya maten, himsayai seiya maten, solla maten, poi solla maten, thiruda maten, என் சக்தியை வீணாக்க மாட்டேன். பிரம்மச்சரிய என் சக்தியை வீணாக்க மாட்டேன். பேராசை பெருநஷ்டம் என்றுணர்ந்து நான் அதனை கொள்ள மாட்டேன். அச்சமில்லை அச்சமென்பதில்லையே, இயமத்தை வாழும் போது அச்சமென்பதில்லையே. அச்சமில்லை அச்சமென்பதில்லையே, இயமத்தை வாழும் போது அச்சமென்பதில்லையே. So when you live the yama, there is no fear because you are negating the negativity. And then you go to the niyama. Now the niyama, by living the niyama, you are becoming a human being. So what are you getting? You are getting shantam. Shantamundu. So in yama was achamillai for yama. Iyamam is Tirumula's version of yama. In Tamil it's iyamam, niyamam, yennila adanam. He gives the same Ashtanga but as Attanga Yoga. So here the concept comes where we give Irupeen, Suttamai Irupeen. இருப்பேன் இருப்பேன் சுத்தமாய் இருப்பேன், கொள்வேன் கொள்வேன் மனதில் திருப்தி கொள்வேன், இந்த சந்தோஷா, கொள்வேன் கொள்வேன் மனதில் திருப்தி கொள்வேன், கடின தவம் இருப்பேன் தன்னைத்தான் அறிய முயற்சிப்பேன். I will do the difficult tapas. கடின தவம் இருப்பேன் தன்னைத்தான் அறிய முயற்சிப்பேன், அவனருளால் அவன்தாள் வணங்கி அனைத்தையும் ஆனந்தமாய் ஏற்பேன், அவனருளால் அவன்தாள் வணங்கி அனைத்தையும் ஆனந்தமாய் ஏற்பேன், சாந்தமுண்டு சாந்தமுண்டு என்னிடத்தில் சாந்தமுண்டு, நியமத்தை வாழும் போது சாந்தமுண்டு என்றுமே, சாந்தமுண்டு சாந்தமுண்டு என்னிடத்தில் சாந்தமுண்டு, நியமத்தை வாழும் போது சாந்தமுண்டு என்றுமே. See, this is how we bring it to the children. The question asked by Professor Ravi, how do you bring it into life of people? Start young, give it in a play manner, give it in a digestible manner, and then they'll catch fire and it will be part of their life. Thank you, Anna, for this opportunity.
Good, that's well said. That's how it is. Unless you enjoy, it becomes a punishment. You
Yes,
can.
sir, I will add here itself with the permission. When we said that half of the teaching will be done just now, but Guruji told DrTPS. आधा बोले तो आप बोले तो that thing is गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरु देवो महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात पर ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. यहाँ तक कि we used to teach up to this level only. After that one, the sentence, we are not giving the importance to the students and also importance to the teachers also. Dhyana moolam guru murti, puja moolam guru padam, mantra moolam guru vakyam, moksha moolam guru kripa. This is the person, Guru means that is the person who gives the good direction. This is not given to the students. That is not related to the students. We are comparing to the Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, but we are not giving the what input is giving. That's why we are teaching that all that things are giving the half knowledge we are giving. That should be properly emphasized to the students. There we are missing. That type of thing is needed in India now, what I feel. This is the thing I would like to add, sir. Thanks, sir.
Again, Atnana Timirandasya Atnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilidam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. He is the person who gives the kajal to your eyes to make you visible things. Otherwise, even Guru is there, you don't even see them. The problem is, most of the people have this cataract problem, Timiram. Atnana Timirandasya. They know everything. I know Bhagavad Gita. Who has to teach me? I know yoga. That's only this. That is like a Timiram person is seeing. I know who is this person. I know what is forest. But he has not never gone to forest. We don't even distinguish passion and interest. I have interest in cooking. What do you? When somebody cooks, I eat. That's my interest. Right? So, when you cook yourself only, you understand your interest. I have a lot of interest in farming. So what do? You go into farm, pick up everything and start eating. That's it. See, that the passion and interest, they don't understand. That is the half knowledge. Timiram. Atnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmididam mena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. What a great, this is what I am saying, we don't define properly. The objective and scope is to be understood. Well said, Professor Ravi. Yeah, Vaishnavi had some question. We have.
Not a question, sir. Just like Anandaji said, we had a yoga class in school. So even in our school, it was considered as a joke. Nobody used to attend it. It was like a yoga period meant a class that we could bunk and we could enjoy. So, and even the teacher was. She never made the class interesting, and we were just like, okay, yoga means it's a free period. So I wanted to just share that which Anandaji mentioned.
Yeah, earlier we had a lot of PT masters, and always used to have you identify PT master with a stick. And it is, the physically toughest person is the physical master. This is a problem. Yeah, somebody else.
I want to add the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Dr. Anandaji was at least lucky to have a yoga teacher who was teaching the class, our yoga sir never taught us. he gave that period free and told us to go and play.
That's good. That's
So
wonderful.
in KV, in Kendriya Vidyalaya itself. So at least I was lucky to meet a yoga teacher at a young age, like not very young age, but he at least told me what is Hatha Yoga and how Raj Yoga is the best. You know, that time I was thinking, like, what is Hatha Yoga? Like, how can I go to meditation by doing these asana practices? But at least he gave me that idea and I searched for that answer. So we need good teachers like him. And I myself is culprit of making yoga boring for my son because he had no choice but to attend yoga classes, my yoga classes, which was meant for adults. And he used to do those yoga asana class, but after some time he got really bored of it because it was slow and not fun for him at all. So as Dr. Ananda sir said, we need to make those classes really interesting for the kids. And we need teachers like you, you know, who are making it interesting for them.
Good. Any more questions? Thank you. Yeah. Any more questions to Dr. Shailaya ma'am? Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Generally, we close by 8:30. Sometime it goes up to 9. It's much 2 hours advance for her, so it's 10:30 now. Anybody else? Yeah, Gopalakrishna ji, fine. Yeah. You have anything to add?
Nothing, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one.
Yeah, Shivam from
You
Muscat.
told to put yoga in your daily life. So how can they inculcate yoga in a food? Is it just to eat healthy or like is it something else?
So, one way in which yoga can be seen is as a darshanam practice. Yeah, so it really allows us to see everything clearly. Yeah, and then first thing is to expand the idea of yoga from this asana. Yeah, in today's world, somehow yoga is seen as asana, right? You go for yoga class, you do 1 hour of asana practice, it's like I did yoga. So to understand that yoga practice is really a much more expanded practice than that 1 hour class that you do. And it is that capacity to really see things as they are in every aspect of your life. Yeah, so food and what we eat is part of that. So like I said, the vision is to be the highest, possibility of yourself in every dimension. Yeah, so again, so when it comes to food, you have to see, right, what it is that you're eating. There's a lot of awareness about food, right? Then there are the gunas, there is sattva, rajas, tamas. So every food has its own energy. Every food carries its own characteristics, right? So it depends on what it is that you're trying to, you want to become a more sattvic person. You want your mind to be sattva dominated. Then you naturally, gravitate towards foods that allow you to be in that state, right? So, but in general, right, you are aware of, what is good food, become conscious about food, right? Fresh foods, fruits, vegetables, cutting out processed foods, cutting out white sugars, white flour. So all of those basic, food hygiene, food dietary requirements, all of that comes into your consciousness and you become more conscious. So I'm not saying that you're going to 100% just 0 to 100. Everything happens in degrees. Yeah, our consciousness expands, our awareness expands, and then slowly we make these changes. And like I say, even in an asana practice, right, suddenly you're not going to touch your toes. Each time you practice maybe 1 inch further, 1 inch further. So similarly in all our habits as well, whatever it is that we are, working against, maybe the procrastination, maybe cleaning up our diet, the changes happen in small ways, but to keep at it and keep being conscious. Yeah, the consciousness is really shining the light. Yeah, and showing us clearly what it is that we're doing.
Well said. You distinguish exercise with the yoga when you do it consciously and with a layam. That's why eating also becomes Brahmarpanam. It's not because you want to be more creative. Why are you eating? Because your Brahma has to awake. Brahma is creativity. Hridaya guhara madhye kevalam Brahma matram. How do you make him to awake? Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahudam, Brahmaiva Tena Gandavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So my eating itself becomes a yoga and a ritualistic practice for me.
Correct.
So once you do with that consciousness, it is for your body to take it. That is what probably 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the modern science is microbiotics or macrobiotics. Nothing different. Where, as Shailajama mentioned, you have got Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. You want to create Rajasic people? Yes. Or maybe your mother, when you are conceived on that day, has taken Rajasic. Naturally, 50% of you is Rajasic. 50% of me is maybe Tamasic. If my mother on the day of conceiving was Tamasic, biologically we have. So maybe satsang can dilute it little bit, not in the character, but at least in the behavior. That itself is a great thing what we have. That is the whole purpose of satsang. That's why we are here. Good, well, wonderful. I think there are a lot of takeaways. There are a lot of messages gone into inner core root. Any more questions, or otherwise we will call it a day? And thank you, Shailajama Ma, for this sharing wisdom, making all of us to reflect and making us to think into the roots and understanding. So
thank you so much, sir.
Namaskaram. Thank you. God bless you.
I just wanted to thank Shailaja ma'am. I've kind of heard all of these before, but today, I don't know, it made a different impact, and I am planning to implement all of this in my life. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I mean, really, this is my passion, and I'm very grateful for every opportunity I have to share this knowledge. So I'm so glad that it resonated with you, and you can feel something positive from this. That's the whole idea we do all these. Thank you.
So see you sometime again with some other occasion to reflect on something which we share common. Thank you, ma'am. Chandrika ma'am, Vijaya Sagar, as Shailaja ma asked to go for silence, they have gone into full silence. So thank you, ma'am. So see you tomorrow with somebody else, those who are on Bhagavad Gita sessions. I asked some assignments, some of people have done really well. They are also here, so I like to put them together, probably see how it can be utilized for better learning and better sharing. Those who have not responded probably could get back as early as possible. There is no last date, though I have to post last date, which I don't like. But still we have posted last date. So thank you, see you. Tomorrow, no, day after tomorrow, I have got Bhagavad Gita, that's why I just mentioned. See you Monday with somebody else, and next week we have got few youngsters joining. And yeah, I think we will end up on 13th.
Can I say something, sir?
Yeah, Gopalakrishnan ji, welcome.
Sir, my suggestion, can you include industrialists and other high profiles people for the chat?
See, my basic intention of what India needs is whether we should have fourth industrial revolution, whether we should have World Bank account. I also give talk. I am also coming to industry, management, marketing, all that management subject. We are there. I will send you my another invitation for another colloquium. But I think this we wanted to have spiritual oriented, that sort of what India needs.
Okay.
Otherwise, we could call some few politicians and ask, I have got from every party I can get people, from every industry I can get people. Our intention of this satsang is, this is a satsang where we wanted to cleaning up of mind, but not economic development, what business we need. Otherwise, we can get an array of such people. That can be a different colloquium, but not in this. Here, what India needs is WIN, not in the avidya winning, but savidya winning.
Okay, thank you for your explanation, sir.
Yeah, that is what we thought. Otherwise, we can get some management professors. Somebody, the other day, one of the management guru of Kerala, Thrissur, Ramanunni, called me, and I am there in one of the discussions of what COVID opportunities on business. I also do that. That's a different phase of mine.
Subject. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, good night, sir.
Thank you. Chandrigama, bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Good, Asha.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.